I'm going to start a new segment where I talk about the books that I've read, that I'm currently reading, and that I plan to read, because reading takes up like 70% of my free time anyway, so I figured why not talk about it. Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse 5. I remember trying to read this a while back, and I gave up because I could not understand for the life of me what was going on. I was so confused, but I gave it another go, and it was much better this time around. I don't know what's changed, but there's this little review in the back here. A funny book at which you are not permitted to laugh, a sad book without tears. That pretty much sums it up. I mean, it was really like humorous, but in sort of a dark way, and also really sad, but it's not the type of sad where, you know, you just like blatantly cry. It just kind of makes you sit there and think, man, like how are people capable of such evil and such terror? It's also like really piqued my interest in history because I did not pay attention in my history classes back then. I really wish I did, but I was like sleeping through every single class, and that teacher did not care. But now that's to my detriment because I don't know anything about anybody or any country anymore. I forgot everything I learned in AP Euro. And I don't even know if we really went into depth into like this specific incident that he talks about of like the Dresden bombings. But apparently it's a classic. I mean, it says here, an American classic, one of the world's great anti-war books. I'm usually not drawn to these kind of books, but one of my friends, she knows who she is, she had this book, and I think that's why I was like, oh, maybe I'll give it a go. But that was the time that I gave it a go, and I did not understand what was going on. But anyway, all in all, I enjoyed this book. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've seen this book and many like it in Barnes & Noble shelves, and I always pass by it. I don't even give it a second glance because I just assume if it's so mainstream that I might not like it, or that it's just kind of shallow or whatever. And honestly, that's to my fault because I read this and it was a lot more layered than I thought it would be. I mean, I also just feel like I kind of have a low bar for books. I think I'm pretty easily like entertained, and I'm really bad at finding like the flaws of plot holes and things, so I'm pretty easily appeased. But this book was really engaging for me. It does a great job, in my opinion, of making it so that there's no real like one bad guy. Like everyone, you see the bad and the good in everybody, so it's really hard to blame, and there's a lot of gray areas, and I really appreciate when authors put that kind of nuance into characters. And it talks a lot about fame and what really goes behind closed doors, and how media really twists like famous people's actions or intentions, and they just try to make headlines. So I liked it. He's Just Not That Into You by Greg Behrendt and Liz Tuccillo. Don't know if I'm saying that right. I actually read this because who is it? Mads ASMR on YouTube did a whispering video, and she whispered like the first 2 chapters, and then I was like, well, let me just read the whole thing. Apparently there's a whole movie that is of the same title and basically of the same concept. It's basically like an entire cinematic portrayal of the concept of if he likes you, you'll know, and if he doesn't, you'll be confused. And that's a phrase that I am trying to live by in my everyday life. So this book was also kind of a reinforcement of that. Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ang. I did not know this book was going to be about what it was going to be about. I don't know why. I think the cover really threw me off. I don't know what I thought it was going to be about, but yeah. So the book is sort of like about conventionality versus non-conventionality, like conformity versus non-conformity, like the artist's life versus the traditional 9-to-5 person's life, suburb person versus kind of like nomadic sojourner lifestyle, comparing different lifestyles, exploring motherhood, what makes somebody a mother, what validates motherhood, lots of different characters, lots of drama, and I guess like plot twist. I don't know. I didn't expect what I was gonna read in here, so I was pleasantly surprised. Yeah, I've seen really mixed reviews on this book, but like I said before, I think I have pretty low standards when it comes to stories because I don't really nitpick about plot lines and plot holes unless they're really like gaping. So I enjoyed it. It kind of helped me embark on my own journey of exploring like conformity versus nonconformity and why suburban environments seem to be really correlated with high conformity and kind of almost even like homogenous populations of people, whether that's in like race, like demographics or people's lifestyles and interests. So it was a great catalyst. The Emperor of All Maladies by Siddhartha Mukherjee. I hope I said that right. It's a huge book about cancer. It's nonfiction, so this author is an oncologist who is kind of compiling all of the ancient to present accounts of cancer, what people used to do in order to treat it, how they approached it, how it's changed. Like, it's actually really interesting because it talks about how cancer and lots of medical things are related to the political sphere too, which I never thought about that. Or how much attention is given to cancer depending on the political climate. I have only read like a couple chapters because it is a long book and it's hard for me to bring this around just to read like when I have free time. But I like that he kind of writes in a narrative style. It makes it easier to take on something, you know, as big as this book, and also the topic. Like, these sort of medical and scientific topics are kind of hard to make interesting and engaging, especially if like you don't really care that much about academia. I hope I get through it. It's due in like a week. I don't know how I'm gonna read this. Valley of the Dolls by Jacqueline Susann. You know what's crazy? I put this book on hold way before I read Slaughterhouse 5, but this book is mentioned in Slaughterhouse 5, which was so trippy for me when I was reading this book, because I was like, whoa. I actually don't know what this is about, but I will find out and you will too. So, yep, that is my entire book reading situation right now. I have to go return these before they're due.